there he is. And there I am.
There we
On
are.
the air, Sully, Little Tommy, Rusty Nailz. And welcome to your... This is our... Yeah, like.
Us.
Do you remember... You know, it's really funny you do that. Because I remember... I worked at Price Club here in San Diego. Which, by the way, was just another version of high school for me. Because I got out of high school and went to college.
Yeah.
And during college, you have a group of college friends, but then you go to work at Price Club.
At which location were you? There was
I
only one,
started
wasn't
off
there?
at Marina Boulevard.
Yeah.
My employee number was 24.
All right.
And then I went out to Santee to open up that one.
Right.
Then I went back to Marina Boulevard. But what was interesting, back in those days,
It's always Price Club to me.
that's
Right.
what I was going to say. It's
always White Front to me. That's how old I am because Saul Price started White Front.
FedMart. He started FedMart.
Are you sure?
I'm 100%
I think
positive.
White Front turned into FedMart.
Maybe so.
I'm going to Google that
Maybe
right
so.
now.
It's always Safeway instead of Vons.
So I
Yeah.
was thinking back then what I was listening to. Back when I was used to drive my Jeep CJ7, the most unsafe car on the planet, when
No
I was driving
seatbelts?
the Price Club. And I was listening to 91X. I was listening to Rusty Nailz, Katie Manor,
baby.
and then on the the weekdays going to college,
Yeah.
I'd be listening to the Jeff and Jer Showgram.
All right, thank you.
That's back in the day.
Yeah, we were all popular.
So but my question was, it always seemed like you had been overserved the night before.
Yes, chances were. Well,
were here.
first of all, you got to get up like at 4-ish, 4:30 to make it to
you had to
Pacific
go to
Highway.
Mexico.
Yeah, not only pick up my partner on Pacific Highway and had some great partners too.
Yeah.
We meet there and then drive to Tijuana, which was probably an hour commute overall. So that just sucked. And I was doing stand-up comedy at night. That was the issue.
Right.
And, they paid you with a couple of drinks and a burger, and then you had to go to sleep, get up, and go to...
Yeah.
So.
You always sound like you had it together. Were you guys always?
Yeah.
Were you guys, honestly, because you were the family show.
Well, we were together for almost 30 years. And, when we first started, we were strangers, and then we became family. And so many different friends were part of the show.
Yeah.
So, yes, through the years, we did make it like clockwork.
Yeah.
But it took a while.
So as a listener, because the funny part of this whole thing is every time we do one of these shows, it's like I'm going to baseball fantasy camp, and I've said that before. And because I've been sitting around people I listened to my whole life, and it was one of those things when I got invited to be doing radio. I was a mouth breather the entire time. I remember the first time Rusty Nailz walked by. That's Rusty Nailz.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Little did I know that he's just Rusty.
And
Nailz.
I still have that. But I still have that when I walk into the iHeart studio.
Yeah.
I still get a kick out of seeing Cookie right there.
Right.
Dave Rickards walking by.
Yeah.
I still like that. I'm still a fan of radio.
Do you ever get interviewed by those guys?
Yeah, I've been interviewed by those.
Do you
guys.
get nervous at all?
I still get nervous. I'm nervous right now. But someone told me a long time ago, when you stop being nervous, that means you need to get out.
Okay, then I will see you later.
I'm normally not nervous at these things, but I will tell you, every time you go into Dave Rickards' studio,
Yeah.
and he's the most welcoming guy on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
But he's the coolest. I mean, Dave
He's the
knows
Pope.
his stuff, and he just
is.
I just love
But
that.
I'm shaking like Don Knotts a little bit when
Yeah.
I go to that studio, and I remember going into. I was only invited to the Jeff and Jer Showgram one time. Because basically that corner was like from whom all blessings flowed. You couldn't even use the bathrooms across the hall, which, by the way, I was pretty sure is illegal.
It was theirs. Oh, that's right.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. When we first got hired to go into that building, KGB, the DSC was there, and they purposely put us on both sides, on opposite sides.
Oh, sure.
They
You guys were
truly did
competing.
that.
Yeah. Wow.
And we didn't.
And yet you still found a way to parade guests past
Oh, yeah.
their studio.
I mean,
when you had an A-lister, you found a way to do that.
When
right?
I had a great guest, someone
Right.
like Russell Crowe, I would tell them to park by the KGB studio,
Russell Crowe.
knowing that I would have to parade them down the parking lot,
Right.
all by the windows.
So
I remember one time I had to talk Sam Kennison into coming to Tijuana the night before.
which was not a long conversation. That was easy.
He didn't make it to the interview.
Yeah, I bet.
2 days.
Because he was in Tijuana.
He
the
was
night before.
missing for 2 days.
So, but I was going to say, the one time I got really, it was during the financial crisis, during the dot-com bubble.
Yeah.
Okay, I was called 1999. Remember Y2K?
Yeah.
It was that. And you guys asked me to come in and break down some financial stuff because I was doing that Sully and Scooter. I think it was actually Big Biz Show. Actually, the name of the show was the Big Ass Biz Show.
Oh.
And then Cliff Albert changed it. But I remember going in there and
I don't remember it well.
Yeah, he could
You
have
don't
just
remember that?
Of course
just
I
been
do.
the ass show.
You're so full of it. Anyway, so I remember Jeff being super nice and you
yeah.
being super nice.
Yeah.
And Jerry warmed up to me. Like afterwards, Jerry thought I was the guy. Afterwards.
Yeah.
I felt like I conquered the room at that point.
You know, traditionally that's how it went. A lot of guests say, "Hey, you and Jeff are so nice," and
Yeah.
Jerry traditionally wasn't at first, just like you said.
He wasn't not nice.
Yeah.
He just wasn't buying into my, you
Just
know.
standing
Because
off a
for
little
me,
bit.
you know, I got a clipboard and a wave, and everybody buys what I'm talking about.
Sure.
You
And,
listen
you
to
know,
me on the air.
God.
It's like I'm just making this stuff up.
And those guys are still today my brothers, and I love both of them.
I'm looking over my calendar. Never got invited to be on the Jeff and Jerry show.
Well, that's because you had "I Hate Jeff and Jerry" T-shirts.
they were well made.
Hey, so all right, let's talk about the show today. First
Yes.
of all, thank you for all of your support
Thank
because
you.
the show's been a wonderful success based upon all of their
Yes.
emails and viewers and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Fantastic.
The chicken,
Then again-
shotgun.
We've had most of it. We've
Gina
had
the
everyone we talked-
Latina.
Yeah, Frankie Vizzle and Dave Rickers.
Then all the
and
people from KUSI,
Clint.
Mathis
Yeah, exactly right.
and Lauren and all the. You
So
know.
we have radio
Royalty.
today.
Again.
coming in. So tell us who do we have, Tom? Talk to us.
We have Delana Bennett from Star 94.1. I love Delana, and here's why. Because I truly believe her career skyrocketed
After she met you.
after we got after we got fired from Star, and they kept her.
That's right. She was part of your show for a
Yeah,
while.
and they kept her, and then
There
right
it
when
is.
they kept her, Star's ratings went up, and her career took off, and I'm so proud of her.
Okay,
Well,
so Russ and I, do you remember?
Uh-oh.
Do you remember when we were doing because before we were, I was local radio with Big Biz, and then
Yeah.
and then I just went into talk radio. Then Big Biz went on a national thing, and we weren't on any local stations because it was on a different network.
Yeah.
You and I were together on a national network, and we were broadcasting out of some cheeseball studio on Arrow Drive,
Okay.
in Kearny Mesa.
The big brick building.
It was. And
Yeah.
it was like
It was a garage.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, it was almost, but it was one of those places that had like 1,000 different businesses in it. And in
Yeah.
the corner, there was a radio studio.
Well,
And Delana came in and was part of our show for, I think, exactly 2 shows.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if she remembers it.
Was
or
that
if she
the day I
wants.
was
So funny.
sampling how fast I could drink the flask?
Yeah.
It might have been. I don't know if that. Yeah, it could have been
Yeah,
that
maybe
one.
so. Well, Delana's been a part of my life for 25 years because her partner, main producer Lady Mary, MPLM, as you've heard me talk about, was my producer on Kogo from
Yeah.
the day I started. I opened my mouth on the former KSDO, and then over in Kogo.
See, it's like a lesson in radio.
Well, but then when I was doing evenings, and I know that they were getting all tucked in instead of watching Cop Rock, they were listening to me as an air check. I would get email from both of them saying, and Delaney was always great job, and Mary
Yeah.
was all just take a gun to my head.
I love Mary Ayala.
Yeah, Mary was great. So we'll go on it. So we have
Yeah, go
Delana
get her.
and
Yes.
can you get her?
Can you just
Yes, I'll
go
get
run
her.
down?
Go get her
right now?
Go get
Yeah,
her. Yeah, get her.
just run off there and see. You know, we have a high-tech paging
goes.
system here. We
Yes.
spare no expense. Oh,
Delana
here she
Bennett.
comes. Oh, lovely.
Just come in, sit down.
That pink is gonna pop. Sit down.
Look at how pretty you are.
I know it. That's great.
Good to see you
You
guys.
should be on TV more.
Oh, well, thank you. You
Have you-
guys
is it-
inviting me here today was fantastic because I actually got to get dressed and I have pants on. So
Wow.
thank you very much.
This is a big deal
Thank
for
you.
Thank you. But Delana, isn't it true? This is how I feel.
True story.
When we got fired from Star 94.1, the Jeff and Jerry
Actually,
show.
she didn't get fired.
I know
You
when
got-
we
Yeah, let's remember who lost.
I'm still there, actually,
know.
Tommy.
but
Still there.
when the Jeff and Jerry show got fired August of 2009, they kept you, which is
They did.
wonderful.
Well,
but
I needed to pay my mortgage, and
happened, yeah.
and that was important to me.
yeah, but we were blown out.
Yeah.
And they kept you, and I truly believe that's when you skyrocketed to fame.
It was to fame.
Because your career.
She was very
Is that where
famous
I am?
before that.
No, but I mean, you.
was her Big Biz show
Your
skits.
career. You are an iHeart Radio premier talent, and you're heard on several stations. And that's
Actually, yeah, I'm over.
yeah.
I'm in over 30 cities, and I'm on 4 different formats. Everything from, top 40 to
Yes.
classic hits.
How do you do that? You change
It's,
your voice a little for the other ones?
It's pretty incredible.
You get a little more
I
Art
gotta
Goody
tell
on
ya.
us? Like, oh,
Art Good.
come on, let's all
Well,
listen
it's
to
funny
some-
you ask because
Yeah.
for some of my stations, I really am up. It's like top 40. You got to get through it. You got to
Right.
get, But for some
You
of my
have the greatest voice, though.
for
Yes,
some of
you
my
do.
classic hit stations.
No, I mean when I hear your
take
voice
it down.
on SDCCU, it makes me happy. It makes me want to go to the credit union.
Well, I'm glad.
It does.
I'm
Yeah.
really
Because I
glad to hear
voiced him.
that.
I voiced him, Billy. I got.
Yeah.
If you call SDCCU you, you will also hear my voice.
See, but are you that person too?
I'm that person.
You know, we have another guest that if you put your headphones on Delta Airlines, you'll hear his voice. Oh. Did you know our next guest is the same? How do you get that gig? Because they've never asked any of us to do any of that stuff.
Do you have an agent?
I asked them.
Who's your person?
Did you really? So let me do your phone machine. Hi.
So you're the one that holds up the teller line by saying,
"That's right.
I need it all in ones." And could I have a gig doing your VO?
If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's right.
Right? You got to be a little aggressive.
I know we're going to talk to you more a little later about all this stuff, but how are you surviving in radio? Because you figured it out. A lot of people, a lot of our friends aren't in radio, but you are, and you're killing it.
You got to be flexible.
Yes.
You got to be flexible. You just got to get it done these days. And I'm very focused. And if you ask me to get something done, you can depend on me. And, and I think, you know, I'm not the most talented person in radio, but I'm at least a good 7. And, and let me tell you, if you need something done, I'm your go-to girl.
I'm at least a good 7.
Good 7. I will.
You know, there's nothing wrong with a good 7.
Hey,
you know
I mean, if you got a good 7, you got a 7.
That's right. And I'm happy you're flexible because at the end of the show we play Twister.
Yeah. Oh.
So if you can just go warm up, maybe we'll.
I'd love to.
So I wanted to do a little preview of Delana because there's so many layers that you and I could talk for an hour about stuff because I would love to know what's going on in your head.
Well, we have so much history.
Yeah, but the problem is you have all the behind the stuff scene about me and my radio career that I don't know about. So, because you know, when you're in radio, you have a boss, and you think you know what they're thinking.
No,
and you don't know what they're thinking, and they tell you sometimes. And that's sort of.
So you want to know what?
I want to know what MPLN says.
I see.
What are they thinking over there?
Mean producer Lady Mary.
Because you are always very, very complimentary and very
nice.
Well,
and I don't think you're blowing sunshine.
First of all, I've played your bits on the air. Number 1, Russ.
My
so
bits?
thank you. I think you're incredibly funny. I've come to see your shows.
Heck.
Sully, I have taken investment advice from you.
We've had those conversations.
I've seen your show, and you're incredible live. And I just heard your most recent release. Saw the stuff on, was it Kimmel or Fallon? I always forget which Jimmy.
Yes, exactly.
But it was fantastic. And then Tommy, I mean, come on.
What's your name again?
Hall of Fame producer
the
Tommy.
history that we have, I mean, he gave me such incredible guidance on Jeff and Jer that I was able to become that better personality. So I
can't wait to delve into it.
I remember you at an airport in Atlanta. With at 92.5.
Sure, you want to tell the story?
And
right now?
We'll
my
tell
gosh,
that.
that's right. That's right.
We'll tell that story.
We might want to clear that one
Bennett, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, go get our next guest.
Go ahead and take a break.
Hey,
Honey,
tell
get the
Gabe to come in here if you're walking
I
down the
will.
hall.
Can you?
There's our
Gabriel,
paging system. So Delana's coming back.
So
Gabe,
come on over here.
All right, there we go.
Get it come down.
We don't. I want to. There we go.
This is well done.
This is our new social distance
Gabriel
intro.
Wisdom, one of the news
The
brothers.
LSDJ.
Wow.
I am Gabe Wisdom.
Yes.
There he is, Gabriel Wisdom.
Wow.
The original LSDJ.
Look at him going, helping himself to the free candy. In fact.
I thought I had time for a losage. But thank you guys.
Here's the problem
Good to see
about
you.
having Gabe Wisdom on the air is that you all hear me every day talk all of this wisdom about, no pun intended, about business.
Right.
And most of it I've stolen completely from his newsletters. And you know, when you hear me say, buy straw hats in the winter, that's all Gabe Wisdom.
Thank you, Sully. That's the most
No, but
sincere form of flattery.
But I give it to you all the time because you are, and you and I are in kind of an interesting position. I went from investment banking and capital formation and such into radio. You went radio into money management.
That I did.
So we are basically the goalposts of radio, the intersection of business and radio.
Gabriel Wisdom, stocks and bonds and rock and roll. I want to say this. I want to thank you because when I was a teenager listening to KGB, I remember running to the radio at 11:50 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday, to listen to Gabriel Wisdom, Jeff Prescott, and Jim McGinnis. And for those 10 minutes from 11:50 to noon, you guys had the best time. And you guys sounded like you were having so much fun, and you guys sounded a little intoxicated.
Whoa!
But as a 16-year-old, I would listen to you guys do the surf, the news report, and stocks and bonds and rock and roll, and I would stare at the radio going, man, I want to do that. So thank you.
Well, and Mike Berger was part of that trio as well.
Wow, yes.
And we had a lot of interesting correspondence. We had Dr. Bronner, from Escondido.
The Dr. Bronner from the soap?
From the
From the
soap,
soap, yeah,
and
he
then
did.
The soap guy?
He'd
Soap
recite from his soap label
Yeah.
the all one God-face principles of one. No Marxist half-truths hate, all one face and one God state.
There it is.
And he'd
right
go
down the
on and on.
Bible.
We couldn't get him to stop, so Jeff
that's
would
great.
put the phone in the drawer. We turn him down, and we go on with the news. And then we'd turn it back. We'd say, "Hey, Prescott, I wonder if Dr. Bronner's still there." Turn it back up. Sure enough,
Yeah,
all one, Mark Spitz.
He's still
I didn't know what he was talking about. Mark Spitz, what's he got to do with the all one?
Now, you did Money
Principle.
Talk Radio on the same network Russ and I were on for a while. Do you still do Money Talk Radio? Are you still doing that stuff?
No.
No?
No, lost
Don't
his
need to.
voice.
No,
Now.
no, you
It's
gotta,
over.
No, you got to pay for it. You got to pay for his advice now.
Yeah.
No, it's that lozenge. What are you serving out there?
Well, there's a little.
Was
there's
that
a
the Lysol?
there's
The Lysol, right?
Cayenne and special pepper.
Yes.
But on,
Lovely.
on
No, I-
KGB, you were before AOR. You were like underground rock, right? And we're going to get to that a little later.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
started off before AOR.
Well, when I started at KPRI, the station was literally underground. It was underneath a pharmacy in Balboa Park.
a
So
bad place to
we used
be.
to say that we're under drugs.
And that's where it was. Was the Capri by the Sea?
That was when Shotgun Tom was there.
But that was
Is that in
Capri
PB?
by the Sea playing Tony B.
Wow.
And Ray Mancini and
You better
blah,
believe it,
blah.
baby.
Yeah.
And then we came in with Obie Jetty. And all those old
Obie
DJs erased
Jetty.
all the commercials, and
Sabatucci.
I'm not saying Tommy Irwin did that, but,
Not him.
but there was a bit of a revolution there. But Larry Shushan saw an opportunity to provide a freeform radio for a generation of kids who didn't want to hear the same 30 songs over and over again. So
Well,
that's what happened.
and the same 30 songs, by the way, back then were also played on the King Biscuit Flower Hour, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Do you remember the King Biscuit Flower
Yeah,
Hour?
that was when you were pretty cool.
Yeah, I was 11, by the way.
Yeah.
I was
now,
11.
Now, just to be clear, I knew Bill Macon.
I know, but still,
he was
but
the
you-
host of the King Biscuit
But
Flower
still,
Hour.
we
He was a
always
comedian.
confused you, and that's the best
Yeah,
part, is
always
that they
confused them.
always thought Gabe Wisdom was part of the King Biscuit Flower.
I had the Joyful Wisdom Hour.
And it was
And
joyful.
That, yeah, that ran
Wisdom.
in the same markets that Minkin's show ran, but I would interview rock stars to explain the philosophy behind their music.
Can you believe I got Gabe Wisdom in studio and we got Delana Bennett? All right, stand by. On the air, Sully, Rusty Nailz, Little Tommy, Delana, Gabe Wisdom.
Try the red.
LSDJ,
lozenges.
King Biscuit Flower Hour. Joyful Wisdom. It's on the air, Russ.
We might have to have him do our rejoiner.
All right, stand by. Hold on.
So I quickly opened the wardrobe, pulled out some jeans and a t-shirt that seemed clean. I topped it off with a pen.
Wow, Gabe Wisdom. I can't wait to peel the layers back
All right, let's go.
on those rolling papers.
You are a layer peeler.
I really am. Russ, are you kind of easing into the face mask thing? Because I know you were
Face mask can be-
protesting for a while.
Yeah, I am, but look at what it does to my face. It's like I get these big old fat cheeks.
No, that's not
All
why.
of a sudden,
That
looks
isn't
like I'm
why.
a little, huh?
Can you
That
know what
one?
I don't see? Because Russ does a great fat face. Have you shown fat face for a while?
No, it's
Yeah.
hard to do with the neck piece.
No,
but
it's
here we
not.
go.
See,
Close up, Rusty.
Russ's fat face.
And
There.
no, that's funny. And that's not funny.
Hey, look who's here. Delana's back, and I'm so glad. Can I just say, you're the most patient woman in the world, because even though I've been in radio for 25 years, it's hard for me to realize, as I usually leave the studio and I walk past your studio,
Right.
hey, that's Delana. I think I'll go say hi. One thing you don't do in a radio studio is go say hi.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to walk in, though.
know they
Even
do.
with the on-air lights
I try
on.
not to look at you. I'm like, no, not looking. And then, it's like, you're very patient.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
I have a question.
Yes.
You've been in radio so many years, right? How many?
Yep. I would give it a good 25.
So 25
Yeah.
years ago, how did
Yeah.
you get into radio?
How did I get in? I was never not in. I mean, if we take it way back,
Yeah.
my mom, I had this little cassette recorder and a little microphone, and I would walk around and interview my mom's
A
friends.
realistic.
It may
Radio
have been.
Shack,
It was
realistic.
probably Radio Shack, yeah. And after that, that's absolutely what I wanted to do. So I had a TV show in high school.
Wow.
Did you really?
I did, and
Jeez.
then I went on to college and University of Florida. I'm a Gator.
Where did you grow up in high school? Where did you grow
Yeah,
up?
what kind of high school has
Central
a
Florida.
TV production?
Central Florida, yeah, Winter Haven. Go Blue Devils, and go Gators. So when I went to the University of Florida, they had a great TV radio program. So I did TV and I did radio there. I learned a lot, and then I got a talk radio job out of college in Fort Myers, Naples, Florida.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of college, I
That's
went to
beautiful.
a little station in Fort Myers.
Well, it's
done,
interesting
I've
is-
arrived.
Well, talk radio, but it's interesting because you
It was
are.
fun. I didn't know what I was doing. And
No, who cares?
People made fun of me because I said things wrong. But hey,
But did
it
you
was a
do talk
start.
radio like topic, like hot talk, like topic?
Yeah,
like, you
it
know,
was a morning. All the hot issues. It was news.
face mask,
it
no
was-
face mask.
Yeah,
You know,
stuff like
The
that.
phones would light up.
And then where did you go from there?
I went to
And why did you go from there?
from Fort Myers. Well, I wanted to move up in the world, Russ. So I took a job with a network that was a pretty conservative network, which is very funny when looking back because I'm not conservative at all. And I worked out of D.C. So I did some stuff like a reporting / talk stuff in D.C. And I was like, man, this isn't for me. It's a little bit too conservative. It just wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I took a job in Seattle doing a morning show with a guy named Greg Cook. And,
Greg Cook, I remember Greg Cook from
yeah,
Magic.
Of course.
That's right.
Sweetie,
Greg,
funny
Delana,
guy,
and
so talented.
Chris.
That's right. And so when I was on in Seattle for maybe a year or so, and our GM came down to San Diego, called us and said, hey, we're going to start this new station called Magic 92.5.
Awesome.
Actually, it was 95.7 at the time. And then we want you guys to come down. And I was like, okay. So you want us to do a Jam and Oldies format? And he's like, yeah, it's the first one in the nation. So we came down and we did that. We did mornings, and unbelievably so, we were incredibly successful.
Who were you then? Like
It was Greg, Delana, and Chris. Well, it was Greg, Delana, Chris joined us, and then,
Then I stole Chris from you when I went over to.
you did, actually. And Chris is still, I mean, he's doing great.
He's with Woody. He's with my
on
old
the East
partner Woody
Coast.
and Woody and Wilcox.
And
That's
at that
And they're
time,
syndicated.
at that time, I would see you at a radio convention like in Atlanta or New Orleans.
Sure.
And we would always see each other in the airport, and you were always so nice. And I'll always remember
Well,
that.
come on, you guys. You know what people told me before I left Seattle? Oh, you don't want to go there. You know why? Because you'll never beat Jeff and Jer.
Jared dominate the
Dave
We'll never
Rickard
beat
said
Jeff and
exactly
Jer.
the same thing. He goes, those jerks over there, you know, we're going to walk in as number 2 every time.
And I was like, what do I got to lose? I don't know who they are. So, I wasn't afraid, but I was in awe that you guys had been so successful and on the air so long, and definitely owned San Diego.
Any warnings about Rusty Nailz over a 91X sucking the life
No,
out of
not
her?
really. Didn't hear that.
I know.
Didn't come up?
Although I should tell you,
Yeah.
we worked in National City, for a
Yeah.
while at those studios right there by the In-N-Out. You know where that is, 24th Street and everything. But you had been at 91X, which was there before.
There was some rusty residue.
There's no. I leave little bits of me all over the world.
So what happened next? So it's Greg, Chris, and Delana.
Right.
And then
It was
what
Greg
happened?
Delane and Chris, by the way.
I decided to, somebody talked me into hosting my own show at Z90, and I changed my name to Roxy.
What?
That was you?
Yes, it was.
Roxy.
And it was a filthy show.
It was.
And
Wait a minute.
again,
Hold
I
on,
didn't-
Roxy?
Wait a minute, you were
You're
Roxy?
Roxy?
And again, it didn't
Did you get
fit.
my
That
flowers?
is fantastic.
It was so dirty. We did such a dirty show.
Oh, yeah.
But
I
we
didn't
had
know
fun.
you were Roxy until this very second.
Well, I was.
Wow.
And I'm glad I
All
tried
coming
it.
together for me.
And
Wow.
it didn't work.
No.
So they
Try
fired
again,
me.
real quick. Just
They
bring me
fired-
back to it. Wait a minute. We got
It was
editors. We'll
Roxy and
get
the
this.
Misfits, and I got to lead a morning show, and I figured out that wasn't for me.
Wow.
So I got fired,
Crazy.
and I went back to the East Coast for a little while.
Working or just
Working.
hanging?
Yeah. I went, got a morning show gig for a little while, but I missed San Diego. So
That says a lot about you that you just, well, I got to get out of here. I get a
But
morning
you
show.
were, come on, but you were. You
And
do
you get
make the
one.
best of it. I mean, we've talked
Yeah.
about stuff, and you always make the best of it
Well-
because this is not an easy business to be in.
of course not. Well, that brought me an opportunity that I never would have had before. I got to try out with Danny Bonaducce.
All right, stay there.
Wow.
Hold on. We're going to leave it at that.
And Beyond Howard Stern.
Hold on. Our degree of separation from the Partridge Family is 1.
man.
Stay right there.
Get a
Delana Bennett.
tambourine. You can recreate some Tracy moments. Tracy Partridge played tambourine.
gotcha.
Okay, I just wondered if anybody's paying attention.
They call it tambo.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. If you're a music inside.
She was in my band,
What was it been?
the Ramblers. Suzanne Crowe.
Should have Roxy.
Yeah, Roxy and the Ramblers.
Dancing.
On the air. See you in a second.
Cannot be the question.
You are as close to Ron Burgundy as you'll ever be right now, and you're watching On the Air San Diego with Sully, Little Tommy, and Rusty Nailz. And there are 2 outstanding San Diego radio personalities joining them today from Star 94.1, Delana, with who I work with her, and Gabriel Wisdom. He would share his personal insights and laughter as a newsman on the News Brothers, KGB-FM. I would share my scotch and my problems with the promotions director called the Booze Brothers.
Oh my goodness, on the air, Sully, Little Tommy, Rusty Nailz, Delana. Now, can I ask you this, is it 94.1 or Star 94.1?
Star 94.1.
Star 94.1. Okay. It's a legacy brand in San Diego. Do you
Absolutely.
remember coming on the air with me and Rusty for Big Biz at all?
Of course.
Do you really?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, because we talked about real estate, and you had me come in and do stock reports. And
Something
stuff like
that she doesn't, that a lot of people don't know, is that you are a very savvy businesswoman. I say it with all seriousness. You are. You've
Thank you.
done a really good job.
Thanks.
With real estate and your portfolio. And the thing is, the messages I get from Delana are, "Hey, what do you think about Nvidia?"
It's true.
What do you think?
And
What do you
that's
think
all
about this
I'll text.
exchange
All I
traded
need.
fund?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, no, it's good. I like when people ask about that, and then I try to. The interesting part is when all my friends are having to be talked off the cliff. Is it time to get in? Or I remember when you called me.
Yeah. Just
at the
recently,
beginning,
not
yeah,
too
it was
long
the beginning of
Couple
March,
times,
yeah.
and the market had just dropped 1,200 points, and it was a should I get in? And I told you something, and that I was praying to God was right when I told her. I
Right.
said just because something's cheap, doesn't mean it's not going to get cheaper.
That's right.
And boy, are you glad because it dropped another 28%.
It sure did, and that's when I bought.
Yeah, exactly right.
When it got down.
You've always been good though. Because I don't think people realize that you could do a business show. And investing for people, not just investing for women, not just investing for radio people. You could do a business show yourself.
Hot stocks with rocks.
Not even that.
I could see the show now.
We could do sexy stocks,
But you
right?
could
I
also-
think that was the idea when I did that with you
It
guys.
was. Well, you were the finance babe or something.
Wow, yeah.
But you're also a real estate speculator. I mean,
Yeah.
you understand the real estate markets here.
Yeah, I'm a landlord. I have a few properties. I can't say that I've been incredibly successful with that outside of San Diego, but
So you only picked the toughest market in the world to be successful. I'm pretty sure you'd do okay at Opelika, Alabama.
oh yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
Sure you'd be fine.
Lot, yeah.
but I'm lucky. I have family all over the United States. So my sister, helps me in DC,
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore, and I have a brother in Florida that helps me there.
Wow,
Now,
see?
you're
She's a
one of the
magnate.
best. You're one of the best in the country on the radio.
Yeah.
But you also care about
Thank you.
you also care about the community.
I do.
How did
I do.
that get into your life on the radio?
Oh, how could it not?
Yeah.
San Diego is just an incredible community of brave and kind people who are willing to help, who are willing to do. I mean, you know that, Tommy. You've seen, the most recent thing that we've done together is the Heart of Gratitude that we did on the Midway. And thousands of people came out and they formed a heart for our military, for Veterans Day. And so, San Diego shows up and shows out, to use a Bruno
See, me and Russ
Mars
did a
phrase.
stick of sobriety one time. There was
Yeah.
3 of us. We laid down
That's
on
all
the beach.
you really
and-
need. If you have a drone,
But I
it
love
looks
it when
good.
because you guys both have done that a number of times where there's a
Yes.
helicopter shot involved and then
Sure.
a poster later on.
Oh, the Jeff and Jer
That's-
flag of humanity
Oh,
in the
yeah.
parking lot. That's
I
memorable.
can't tell you
But
how
that
many
takes
times
an
I tried
audience to do that. You guys are both really good at that. That's
Loyal
fantastic.
followers.
By the way, it was a blimp.
Was it a blimp?
We would be up in a blimp
Yeah.
and we would take the shot.
Russ, let's do a beer can of brotherhood.
I'm ready. We are going at it.
Honestly, but yeah, to see that philanthropy, obviously is a piece of that's been part of
well,
your brand.
if that's something I can give back
Yeah.
to the community with, I'd love to. And
hosting
I
events and stuff
host
like that.
a ton
Yeah,
of
yeah.
events, absolutely. And now I remember, you guys were talking about being nervous a little earlier.
Yeah.
Man, I just remember I would freak out before I had an event like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I
because the
still-
people are there.
Yes, and I still get nervous.
Yeah.
Good.
But at least I think I have a plan of what I'm going to do and
Yes.
say.
Delana, how do you handle being recognized? Because at this point, you are pretty recognizable because you had, I mean, obviously, you did the TV show for a long time. Was it, I don't want to say the wrong casino.
It was 3 Minutes to Stardom,
Yeah,
Valley View Casino.
Valley View. So Valley View.
Which we had a great time
It was a
doing.
fantastic.
It was fun.
But
It was
you
fun.
are
a lot of great talent.
you have a big footprint in this town. How do you, I mean, do you get tired of being Elvis in this town? When you're
I
at
think
the
you have
you
big
should-
feet or anything.
when
Let's put that as a-
you're eating the bloomin' onion at Outback and people
You
are
know-
walking up like handing a Sharpie.
People recognize my voice more than they do, me.
So this
and
happens at
most of the
sushi
time,
bars.
I have like hat on and whatever. So people don't recognize me a lot that way. But I do have a great story. I was in Walmart in La Mesa.
All great stories start
Grossmont.
off with, I was at a
the one that
Walmart.
just, yeah.
And I was in cutoff shorts. I had a hat on, and I was just not feeling good. I had some kind of flu. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But this woman walks up. She goes, "Hey, Delana." And I
you just
just
keep going.
beeline. I keep walking. I'm like, I can't right now.
Right.
That happened to me at a bar in Tijuana.
Hi, I'm
Yeah, we
Delana.
don't want that. No, we don't want to be recognized sometimes.
So today, it's 2020, and you're on the air. You're on the air by yourself.
Yep.
How did you survive it all? Because you've been part of many morning shows,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're on solo, but you're killing it. How did that happen, and how are you, so successful?
Ooh, I think it gets back to what we talked about before. You have to be versatile. Know your role in a morning show. It's everybody knows their role. You have a certain thing that you bring to the show and contribute with. But it's like if you're on your own, you sort of are. You have to be the show along
Yeah.
with the listener. For
Do
me,
you ever fight with yourself?
of course.
Should I say this? I
You
don't
should
think so.
hear me yell at myself
Usually in
sometimes
the
when I
car.
can't get a break right or I can't say something. But for me, it's about bringing the listeners into the show now. Since I don't have a big ensemble anymore, it's like, what are the listeners thinking, or what can they contribute, or what can we talk about that may be a funny story?
Delana Bennett, you are absolutely.
Top of the hill.
And I know you.
Yes, a number
I can't get
one.
enough of you. And
Love Delana.
and I love your partner, me, producer Mary, also. She's just,
Oh, and
we have this. That could be a
she
whole show
loves
talking
you.
about our relationship. I got to get the deep down inside. All right, Delana,
Delana.
thank you so much, Delana Bennett. Fantastic.
Thanks, guys.
All right, coming up.
Roxy.
I know. I want to revisit that whole deal. Coming up, Gabriel Wisdom, the original LSDJ. Joyful Wisdom.
Here we go.
On the air, little Tommy, Rusty, Sully, Delana, Gabe. See you in a minute. Oh my goodness, Hall of Famer, producer, Tommy Sablon.
There we go.
Yeah.
Emmy Award-winning Rusty Nailz.
Yeah.
Certificate of Achievement holding Sully.
Yes.
Almost a crossing guard.
And
B+ student
Nothing wrong with that.
and chief negotiator.
Accepted by many.
may I have the honor?
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
May I introduce the viewing audience to a man who would be on the Mount Rushmore of KGB radio.
Yes.
This guy, when I was a teenager listening to KGB, the station in town, it was this guy who got me fascinated with radio. I want to thank Jeff Prescott. I want to thank Jim McGinnis and this man right there,
Wow.
Gabriel Wisdom. Gabriel Wisdom.
Wow.
Yeah. Gabriel, thanks. I'm going to edit that intro for the next program.
Does this mean I'm going to die soon?
That was like a eulogy.
That covered it.
But-
Thanks for coming in. Goodbye.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
But the
Good night.
1970s,
Oh, my goodness.
listening to KGB, it was because of you. You made that station. So thank you.
Well,
It was
no,
listening.
it wasn't. It was a lot of people. I just happened to be there at the right time.
Yeah.
We had Berger and Prescott, of course, Dave, Shelley, Chainsaw. They're back. They're still
Yes,
there.
yes.
But back
Digby
in the
Welsh-
day,
Digby
though,
Welsh.
when you guys were doing live remotes from the Improv,
Look at that.
I
Yeah.
mean, come on. I mean, that was,
Look at
that's so. First of all, you didn't start there, though. I think I remember you from KPRI. You might have started
Yeah.
earlier, but I remember you from KPRI, in San Diego, and I was just discovering. It was like that little kid in that movie Almost Famous, where you're just discovering rock and roll.
Yes.
You're just discovering
That
the
actually
B-side
happened.
stuff and reading the album
happened.
covers.
That happened.
That's Cameron Crowe.
Yeah, that is.
And that's me in the studio, Alice Wisdom.
Yeah, right.
And that's Lester Bangs. That's all. That really happened.
Were you a part of that movie making?
I was.
Yeah.
Were you really?
You don't know that.
I didn't know that.
The disc jockey's
Share that
Alice
story.
Wisdom.
Wait a minute.
Paulette
We're getting way ahead of ourselves.
All right,
here.
talk about
No,
that.
I'm going to drop a lot of names.
That's good.
Please
Drop
do.
some names.
But
Please
I can't
do.
remember most of them. Okay.
Make them up.
So I started out there when, back when people were driving wagons,
Volkswagen.
covered wagons,
Covered wagon.
we have a
thought you were saying
sand
Volkswagen.
painting of your first gig. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I got an opportunity because the all-night guy, Captain Sunshine, fell asleep, and the program director called me and said, "Hey, you've got a key. Come on down, do your show." So I got on my smoking Volvo with the bald tires, and I went down to 7th and Ash, and the needle on the record was going,
Yeah, right.
like they did, and I'd been practicing for this moment, and I turned on the mic and I said, "I've just been on the roof, and I've got the KPRI weather report for today. It's going to be blue and green with paisley patterns, and the high will last 4 hours. Right into Hendrix.
Yeah.
Are you experienced?
Man.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's how it started.
But here's the deal: is I have to tell you, that totally brought me back
Yes.
to me listening to the radio under covers when my parents didn't know I had the radio on because I was supposed to be asleep, and you had that little weird little thing that got the earwax on it. The whole thing. But that was the day. That was.
That was the day. We had a lot of fun. We did put on some big concerts, including the first Crosby, Stills, and Nash show at the Balboa Stadium. I don't think that's there anymore. I know it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
But we had 40,000 people. We did something called the Neural Festival. Roger Hedgecock
Yeah, right.
was the concert promoter.
No
Scott
kidding.
Goering.
Before he was mayor, before he was convicted, and before he was.
that was our
radio
show.
person.
You guys brought in canned heat.
Of course we did. Yeah, Canned Heat, Quicksilver Messenger Service, Grateful Dead.
Did you realize at the time that were you just a dude that I get to do this for as long as it lasts, or did you realize because you were a celebrity, you were a guy that was rubbing elbows with iconic musicians? Did you really know what was going on at the time?
It started as a summer job, before college, to make some new friends, mostly of the female variety.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah, that works.
Radio.
Sure.
And then it turned into something more, but
So you don't know how to play a guitar then?
I do not.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
but I
So you have to
have
be in
the
the
pick.
radio.
I got the Sully pick, the
Yes.
first iteration, the second iteration.
That's what happens. We get those are the lovely parting gifts.
I
we
hear
get
you
to the
laughing
guests.
here too, and I remember that being a part of Berger Prescott with you doing the news, and you weren't as upfront of a DJ as you are, little subtle, you're not the.
Yeah, you were the snipe hunter. You were the guy that was get in there and get out. And
You're
it
the
was
kind of guy that go up and pull that string over there, Jeff.
You know what? I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I knew I wasn't going to stay in radio my whole career, but I wound up being on the radio for over 40 years.
Yeah, you did.
But I always thought, I know this is going to end. I don't care. I'm just going to have a good time.
Yeah.
For example, on a Jewish High Holy Day, Prescott and I just happen to be Jewish of Jewish backgrounds.
Sure.
We're not going to temple and
Right.
doing the.
But there's a little challah in your
lunchbox. The beard
lunchbox.
and the whole thing.
dread.
But we called ourselves the Jews Brothers on, I think it
You
was
and
Yom
Pres-
Kippur.
for the day.
Yeah. And we
Yeah, but
brought
that
in,
was high humor back in the day on radio.
Yeah. We of course, Dr. Bronner, we had him do a little service, a quick one.
Right.
We couldn't get him to quiet, shut
Stop
up.
talking,
But then a
Jews
band called
Brothers.
Gefilte Joe and the Fish.
Yeah.
Did Fairfax Avenue,
Yeah,
like
right.
Electric Avenue.
Right.
Who was
And
can I ask you
and
this? Who was the biggest of all these names of all the bands you talked about? It just what was the big? Were you ever like, oh my gosh,
Jaw
that's-
dropping, I
that's
can't
Jimi
believe I'm
Hendrix,
meeting
or
these
that's
people.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah.
Was there a big one that ever put you on your heels, or were you just unaffected?
I loved them all. And I do remember Jim Morrison and how he always needed to know that his parents weren't in the audience at the show.
That they weren't.
This was very important to him, that Admiral and Clara
Yes.
Morrison of Coronado not be at the show that we
all
were
right,
doing.
stay right there.
Diego.
Gabe Wisdom. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. Legendary. We got to talk about the LSDJ. We got to talk about the Joyful Wisdom program.
And we got to talk about getting this plane down out of the sky.
Yeah, we do.
What?
There it is. Look at that.
And the US Festival.
Oh my God.
Oh, here it comes.
Well, I'll tell you what, this lockdown has really shuffled the list of what is important to us now, am I right? Show the graphic. There we look. Coffee has remained about the same usage. Not driving so much, no duh. More time online, indeedy. Shaving drops as drinking goes up, that's a good combo. Toilet paper use shot up like a rocket as we all learned to cook. Then usage dropped as we all learned of DoorDash. And cooking scares some people. Besides, the big question is how soon after waking up is it okay to take a nap?
Gabe Wisdom's here. What do you know about that? Oh my goodness.
Gosh, there's too much to cover.
No, here's the thing about Gabe. I just have to tell you. So Gabe also runs American Money Management. Literally the smartest financial guy I know. And I'm just going to put it out there. We need to invite you back for a whole show.
Yes.
To talk about the arc of how you, like where we leave off today, and how you ended up being one of the most notable money managers in the country.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about San Diego. I'm talking about well-known and in 47 radio markets, talking about, but I think we need to do an entire show of Gabriel Wisdom.
Yes.
And Gabe, did you already have the kind of cool voice, or did you work on the nuances of broadcasting, or
Gabriel
just went
Wisdom.
with what comes out of you?
I just went with it. I've never had a great, Michael Berger type,
Right.
Huevos rancheros grande.
No.
That's my order this morning at breakfast.
Or Rusty Nailz. I mean, you've got a voice for. I have a face for radio.
There it
Yeah,
is.
he does.
Is it?
Yeah, and the
but-
Larry David lookalike contest runner-up too. I think.
Well, what's nice about the COVID shut-in thing is that my hair is self-trimming.
it's on autopilot.
You take a look at my forehead, you'll see
am.
your
Speaking of
future.
pilot, real quick, one thing that's one of your favorite hobbies is you are a pilot.
I am a pilot. Yep.
You jot over to Palm Springs for lunch all the time.
It's fun. Or Catalina Island. You guys are welcome.
That's got to be a road trip. Come
That
on.
is.
And
He
I-
comes
and I
back
do-
and works in the afternoon. He just goes, has a little sandwich, and he comes back.
Great. Yeah.
And as a hobby, I'm a flight instructor. I do check rides, FAA check rides, stuff like that.
That's scary.
When I became a flight instructor, the guy that did all my training gave me a book by a retired flight instructor. It was called "They're All Trying to Kill Me."
Is that how you got to be the voice of? One time I was on a flight. I believe it was to
Yes.
Hawaii. And I texted
was
Gabe
Delta.
on the plane going, I'm listening to you on the head. I can't remember what you were
Right.
talking about, but you were the voice of Delta Airlines for a while.
Yeah, that was me and Harry Shearer. I don't know if you know who
Oh,
that
sure,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the content. Remember the topic? Was it, or was it?
It was
just
like a rock show about
Oh, that's
something.
right.
I forgot.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, speaking of rock shows, you were at the US Festival. I mean, I only can see video from that concert, that festival, but you were there. Can you tell
was.
us about the US Festival?
Well, KGB did a lot of concerts. We did the charity balls. We did the homegrown, sports
Yeah.
arena type.
Yeah.
But the US Festival was Steve Wozniak when it was pushed out of Apple, and Woz joined forces with KGB and with Bill Graham. And then he added KLOS and KMET in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And they got 400,000 fans to go to San Bernardino. It was 110 degrees, 3 days, 32 arrests, 12 drug overdoses, peace, love, miscellaneous.
Yeah.
And Van Halen, Tom Petty. Sting, right.
Young Sting.
Young Sting.
Young Sting,
Private
Bowie.
Police,
Bowie
probably,
was year 2, I think. David
Wow.
Bowie. I mean, it was amazing. He lost $10 million the first year.
Yeah.
And then he doubled down for year 2.
Oh man.
Were those the type of things you show up and you get on stage and announce the band and in front of a sea of people?
Right. Yeah.
And they're
That's
looking
the greatest.
People then they threw stuff at you.
Yeah, it's like, shut up, we're here to see the band. Move over.
right.
Yeah.
Russ is telling a couple of. So are you? Do you miss doing the? I know you did business talk radio for a
radio
long time,
life?
but do you miss the morning stuff? And do you miss that part of your career?
I mean, sometimes I do. It's a little bit like going to a museum for me. You want to do it, but not every day.
Right.
I go back to the old days, and then also the the people that we all knew, you know, and how they've grown up, and some of them have become enduring, you know, superstars. They're iconic. Yeah. And many that we thought were going to last just faded away.
Yeah.
So it's show business is a funny beast. It has to be fed all the time. Mm-hmm. But I'm amazed that some of the bands like Kiss are still going.
Yeah.
I mean, you know who they are. My wife and I were in Czech Republic last year. We ran into Alice Cooper.
Wow.
And Ozzy Osbourne.
Wow.
And they had Johnny Depp as one of their guitarists. And
No kidding.
it was amazing. Everybody in that hotel was excited.
Sure.
To see these guys, and you know, Alice is in his 70s.
Yeah, right.
So is his golf score.
He's a great golfer.
He is a great golfer.
He's a great golfer.
Yeah.
Back then, KGB was huge. As they were so huge, there's a movie or a documentary about it. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Raul Sanderland, who's professor at City College, and Tony Butler, the Butler did it, have put together the KGB movie. And it's not quite finished yet. Cameron Crowe has done a little bit of the narration, which is terrific. I mean, it's wonderful. And you've got Cookie Chainsaw Randolph, Berger and Prescott, Shotgun Tom is in it.
Did you make it in this,
Pat
Nailz?
Martin.
You know, I got a chance to be with the Hergon Breakfast Club.
Jim
when I was
McGinnis?
Just
Yeah,
started,
Jam.
a lot of
Who
great
we'll
guys.
have on the program here eventually.
Yeah,
We have,
right, Hergon, Bill Hergensen.
Right.
You know, the Hergon
And those breakfast clubs were incredibly
They
fun.
were incredible. We bring in guest artists.
I think we should do you know, the Geritol team.
Let's do it. We can build
do a
ramps.
breakfast club.
Build some ramps to
Actually,
get on stage.
instead of a breakfast club, let's do an early bird dinner club. We'll do
That's
a
right.
3:30 show.
3:30 Blue Plate Special.
I think the days of the hometown buffet
No.
and apple bobbing.
Sir George's.
I think they're over.
How about Sir George's smorgasbord?
yeah.
Gabriel, listen, fantastic.
Bit of
love you, man.
Sweden.
Awesome stuff. American Money Management, AmericanMoneyManagement.com. All right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you tomorrow.